Now, I know the show came out about 2 weeks ago as of this recording. It debuted while I was out of town visiting family for the April 8th solar eclipse. So here I am, as a fan of the games and as someone who is pretty well versed in the lore to give you my honest thoughts of the Fallout TV series. Well, it's actually pretty good. I wasn't expecting a masterpiece, which it is not, but I feel like for a show that's exclusive to Prime Video, the quality is way better than most people would think. The big thing that everyone can really compliment it on is that it definitely captures the look and feel of the Fallout games, the post-apocalyptic wasteland. There are definitely moments where the dark satire humor comes out, and then there's moments where the violence of the games takes a front seat. And through the three main characters and few minor characters, you essentially cover all the emotions and decisions one has to make when playing the games as you're exploring the wasteland. And yeah, the icing on the cake is the soundtrack, which is the song straight from the games that play when you switch on the radio stations. All of the featured songs are perfectly placed too to match the mood of whatever scene they're featured in. Now, for those who don't necessarily get the games or the lore, it's set in an alternate timeline where the 1950s Cold War, the aesthetic, the attitudes, the technology, kept going well into the 21st century, which is why you both see that retro-futured look on cars and houses and appliances, but at the same time there's robot helpers, while armies have advanced weapons and technology. So once you get that it's just an alternate timeline, you can pretty much accept and go with what you see. And yeah, we have to go over the main characters. You have Lucy McLean, played by Ella Purnell, Cooper Howard, played by Walton Goggins, and Maximus, played by Aaron Moten. Now with Lucy, she primarily serves as the main protagonist, since all of the main games you play as the Vault Dweller who has to leave the vault and explore the wasteland on insert X mission or whatever, New Vegas obviously being the exception. Whenever I play any of the games, I usually play as a female character, so I welcomed the fact that the show's Vault Dweller was female. And unlike many of the recent movies and TV shows that have been released where the female lead is a Mary Sue girl boss feminist power fantasy, Lucy is very human, likable, and relatable. And as she comes from the vaults where the residents were led to believe they served to preserve the good old golly gee willikers Americana way of life after most of humanity is wiped out in a nuclear war, Lucy starts off as very gullible and naive because she's obviously not prepared for what's outside. Again, that's how a new player of any of the main games would react when they play the first time. Even though she is an agile, capable fighter and weapons user in her own right, it's at least established that she was trained in combat and gymnastics prior to exiting the vault. So she doesn't at all come across as some overpowered character. She starts off as an easy victim for the ruthlessness of the wasteland, and she gets her ass kicked multiple times and gets into a situation where she could easily be killed. She even makes mistakes because of her gullible golden rule attitude in the first few episodes, but then she learns from them. And then just like a player's XP stats growing, she gradually becomes more like a seasoned player who understands there are no morals in the wasteland. In the case of Fallout, this is an action female heroine done correctly. Hey, Disney Star Wars, you should be taking notes. Maximus is an idealistic aspirant for the Brotherhood of Steel, the military faction the players often run across and can either join, or in cases of New Vegas and Fallout 4, can turn against because you find their morals and stances to be wrong. Maximus tries to do the right thing at first, but he gradually becomes disillusioned with the Brotherhood the more time he spends interacting with their leaders. First, the knight that he was supposed to be a squire to, and then with the commanders. You can empathize with him, but you also see that he isn't necessarily the clean-cut babyface either in the matter. And when Season 1 ends, you are left wondering whether he will eventually go on a power trip and turn completely heel, or he'll redeem himself. Cooper Howard, who becomes the Ghoul after the war, is probably hands down the most intriguing of the three. Walton Goggins essentially portrays two different versions of the same character, who serves as a bridge between the pre-war and post-war world. In the pre-war flashbacks, you learn he was once a famous Hollywood actor whose wife works for Vault-Tec, and you get the sense of his career being ruined once he becomes the face of Vault-Tec, as studios wouldn't work with him out of association. And then, of course, he learns of Vault-Tec's true intentions. As the immortal Ghoul, you see his life making a living as a bounty hunter, and as he eventually tells Lucy, "Oh, I'm you, sweetie, just give it a little time." Because this is after 200 years of surviving the waste, he represents what all of that time, all the morally objective actions and killing lots of threats will do to someone, even as idealistic and hopeful as Lucy is. To Cooper as the Ghoul, morals and purposes don't apply anymore. Only get what you benefit from. And also, through flashbacks tying it together, you finally understand that he knows more truths of what really happened with the war, who certain people really are, and the true nature of the vaults. And by the end, you actually get the sense he's been on a mission the whole time. The series story did keep me guessing on where it was going to lead to, and then I felt the payoff on episode 8, where you finally get the truths revealed. It was well executed. And the things setting up for season 2, yeah, that got me excited. And just like the games, the real meat of the series was the side quests and the interactions with those in the wasteland. There is, of course, one major plot hole, and I'm sure that will probably get addressed in season 2. Spoiler! Cooper's wife Barb, a high-end Vault-Tec executive in a flashback, is revealed to be the person who pitches the idea of Vault-Tec starting the war and dropping the bombs. So if it was her idea, and she knew that Vault-Tec was probably going to drop the bombs, why would she allow her daughter in the series opener to be out and about with her now ex-husband Cooper on the day the bombs were being dropped? But with that aside, overall, I felt the show was really well done. Along with The Last of Us and even the Super Mario and Sonic movies that recently came out, I'm glad to see that there are movies and shows based on video games that not only treat the source material with dignity and respect, but they have been quality releases. Some may find that there's not enough world building for those who don't play the games, and that perhaps is where some in-jokes will go over most people's heads. But I think that this series will actually generate more interest in people to go play the games. I mean, you can get 3, 4, and New Vegas on Steam for relatively cheap nowadays, and they work just fine on my laptop. If there's anyone that's going to criticize the show for the push for diversity that Amazon has been doing, because you have interracial romances being showcased, especially given the 1950s aesthetic and attitudes in the lore, well, who is to say that there wasn't a civil rights movement in the alternate timeline prior to 2077, when the bombs dropped? And I really found it hilarious over certain people saying, no, the show wasn't gay enough, despite one of the larger roles actually being trans, because they wanted the main character Lucy to be gay. Yes, please make the farm girl who is set up and applies for breeding between the interconnected vaults to be gay, because that will make sense. Some players who also played the games may criticize the show for, quote, canon breaking locations and factions from the games, more specifically the new California Republic and their lack of presence in the show compared to the first 2 games in New Vegas, and their capital, Shady Sands, which in the series was revealed to be nuked by the time the series is set. Now, since all of this stuff actually occurred between the events of New Vegas and the TV series, it's quite possible that we're going to get more about this explored in Season 2, on top of what we already learned in Season 1. Since you know the main character Maximus was from Shady Sands, survived the nuclear explosion, and now he knows who's responsible for its destruction. But with that said, those are my overall thoughts on the Fallout TV series. I really liked it, and I'm definitely going to be waiting for Season 2. I'm Desert Coyote 22. Thanks for listening.